This video is to be used by TNR healthcare assistants if they are going into areas such as A&E and maternity. The first one that we're going to have a look at is the A&E department. To access the system from an A&E perspective, you will need to open up this icon here, which is FirstNet. When you first open up FirstNet, it will ask you to select a location, and we have accident and emergency at the BRI. We can then press the OK button. It will then open up FirstNet on our ED Launch Point page. Just like PowerChat, we do have our navigation part of the system coming across the top, the sections that we can do once we're in the record. We also have a search box and our refresh button. The first section we've got is ED Launch Point, which is the clinical information that we can see here in front of us. The next section is the emergency department, and this will give us an overview with limited clinical information. Coming back to ED Launch Point, we can then see our patients. We do have the different ability to change what we're viewing, so we can close the empty beds and open the waiting room so we can see everyone in the department. It'll also tell us currently how many patients you have assigned to yourself and who is currently in the department at the moment with an average length of stay. This is the training environment, so all of our patients came in at the same time. We do then have the columns, so the columns start with where they're located are in the A&E department, their current triaging score, their patient information and medical record number, and their allergy status. It will then tell us who is assigned to the care of that patient and what they've come in with. We'll then be able to see relevant information based on that patient. So if their observations have been done, if they need any blood tests doing, and any other information in the different columns. On the far right hand side of the screen, we will also have their length of stay, which is also colour coded. The first thing that we must do once we enter the A&E department is check in, and to do this we'll come up to the top corner of the screen where we've got the three little lines with the arrow pointing down and select check in. From here it will automatically put in your name as a clinical staff member, and you will be able to select the role. From there I will then be able to press the OK button at the bottom, and that has now checked me in. From here, to access the patient's record, just like PowerChat, you will be able to double click on the patient's record, and that will open up their information. Now the patient's record itself does look slightly different to PowerChat, so you can see that we do have the information coming across the top in our blue banner bar, just like the PowerChat system, but we do have the grey menu down the side. Now this is in a slightly different order with some different names. Now the first one we've got is ED Clinical Notes, which is where we will be able to see all of the patient's information of an overall view. We will also have things that you'll be used to, such as requests and care plans, and clinical notes is now their documentation section. If you do need to order any blood tests or other orders, we can go to the Quick Orders tab, which will have a list of all of the things that we can order quite quickly. So for example, I can go in and order a COVID swab. I can just click on COVID swab. It will ask me who has asked me to do this, and I can press OK. It does come up with some information. I can then OK the message, and it will then go into my shopping basket at the top, allowing me to click on this basket and go in and sign the information. Just like in requesting care plans, we would have to go in and fill out all of the relevant details. So I'm just making up these details as we go along. And then we can then sign for that test. You would of course go to the specimen collection, exactly the same as you would a power chart, to record that you've collected that blood test. To access the patient's vital signs from here, we would be able to go to assessments and fluid balance, exactly the same as power chart, and complete their observations. Coming back to ED launch point, we are also able to move our patients around the department by selecting the location and then selecting from the list where we want them to move to. So I've got my patient in -1 and I'm going to move them to see and treat 1 by selecting the area and then OK. Once I refresh this page, Susan Burton has now moved from minors to see and treat. We can also right click on the patient's name and we would be able to go to quick links through to the relevant section of the patient's record. And then back to launch point to go back to that patient. At the top of the screen we also do have a search box. This will search for your patients around the A&E department. So if I put in Susan Burton, you can see that it comes up with her name, allowing me to find her. Now when our patients are ready to be discharged, we will have to go in and complete the discharge information, but this will be carried out by the nurses in the area. The first things that would happen is that we would request a transfer patient location. Now this could either be done by right clicking in the quick link or through requesting care plans. This will then transfer our patient onto the ward if they do need to be admitted. We would then be able to go in and start the discharge process once a bed has been located. We will be able to see when a bed has been located for the patient because it will give us a status here with the bed icon and where that location is once it is ready. At the end of the shift, like at the beginning, you must check out of the location. So we can go back to the 3 lines and select check out. Again, it automatically populates and we would then be able to press the OK button. And that has now checked our patients out of the A&E department's application. If we were going into the maternity system, we would come to the power chart icon on your desktop, exactly the same as when we were entering for the main hospital. Once we open up power chart, we would be able to go to the different sections of the patient's record. Now the first thing that we're going to have a look at is if you do work in a clinic, in an antenatal clinic environment, we would be able to set up a list of all of our patients who are attending the clinic today. I would be able to do this by selecting where it says no resource selected and search for the relevant clinic. I'm going to search for one of the training clinics. And I would be able to select from the list the clinic that I'm wanting and then press apply. And it will then load up a list of all of the patients that are attending the clinic today. The reception desk will check them in and the clinical staff members will check them out. We would just be able to click on the patient's name, entering that record. It will open up the record onto the visit summary page for us to be able to have that overview of the patient's record. Now to enter the maternity part of the system, we would come to the grey menu bar and scroll down right to the bottom. We do have BTHFT maternity view. By selecting this, it will open up the patient's maternity record. We do have the different stages coming across the top of the screen, depending on our patient's stage of their pregnancy. And we would be able to select on the relevant one. Now, all of these different tabs do have very similar information and work exactly the same once we're in them. They might have slightly different names, such as antenatal visits. In intrapartum would be the labour assessments. At the top of the page, we will have the pregnancy overview information, which will give us an overview of that lady's pregnancy. And we will have another grey menu bar coming down the side, allowing us to navigate throughout the system. To order any tests in the maternity part of the system, we would use new order entry, which will allow us to go in and search for the relevant tests, such as a full blood count. We will be able to select this. It would go into our envelope type shopping basket in the top right hand corner of the screen, and then exactly the same as what we did in FirstNet, we will be able to select the shopping basket and sign for the test. It will then take us through to the requesting care plans part of the system, allowing us to go in and document that blood test. So I'm just going to put in some information into the boxes. And from there I can then press sign. Again, just like the rest of the system, we would then go to the specimen collection tool at the top, recording that we've collected that specimen. Now, to access the assessments and fluid balance part of the system from the maternity view, we would come to antenatal visits if it's in antenatal, and using this drop down in the top right hand corner, we will be able to come down to antenatal outpatients. And in here, it will take us through to assessments and fluid balance, but on the correct band for antenatal outpatients to be able to go in and complete that assessment. We would be able to use this back button in the top left hand corner of the screen to go back into the maternity summary page. In the intrapartum, we would be able to access this via their handover and transfer documentation section. And in the drop down, we have then got labour, and it will take us through to our labour band to go in and put in any labour documentation. And the same with postnatal, we would be able to access this via the handover and transfer documentation, and then we've got postnatal. And it will take us through to our postnatal assessments. Again, selecting the back button, we would be able to go in and out of those assessments. Now, to complete a documentation in the maternity part of the system, we would be able to scroll right down to the bottom and select the Select Other Note tool. From here, we would be able to press the Add button at the top, and this is where we would be able to go in, very similar to the main hospital, put in our title of what we're wanting to do. So ward M3 morning. We would then be able to search for the type of document. So my screen is quite small, but I can find my dynamic content creation document and press OK. From there, I would be able to go in and free type into the document. Now, just like all of the rest of the system, we would always sign and submit. We would never save and close a document. We would always sign and submit. It does have automatic spell check, and it will check the spellings of the words. And we can press sign and submit again and sign, and that will put that document onto the record. I can then press the back button and refresh the system so I can go in and view that document. Now, from here, it's quite possible that you may want to go in and edit any documents that have been created. So I will be able to select the relevant document, This little grey arrow, this little black arrow here will open up some extra fields and we will be able to press the modify button. Now the person who has created the document will be able to go in and addend or revise. Now we can addend and add more information in as much as possible, but we would only be able to revise the document once. It is advised to use the addend part rather than revise. Once we press OK, it will open up the document, allowing us to go in and add more additional information, and it will then also sign date and time with who and when that was completed. So you can see it does say add addendum here. So I can go in and add additional information and again sign that document. Once we look at this document now, it will say that first information there at the top and then the now added information at the bottom. That is the end of the training video. If you have any questions, please let the training team know.